Hey guys, welcome back. Do you want to hear something that'll make you really, really mad? No? Well, sorry, that's the wrong answer. If it weren't for the pandemic, this week would have been E3. And by now, we would have seen infinite campaign footage, gameplay, and we'd probably even be playing it. But silver linings, we're now probably less than a month away from the July reveal event, so not long to go now. I just hope it's worth the wait. Anyway, in lieu of the fact that the reveal we've all been waiting for God knows how long now is almost within reach, I thought today we'd do something a little bit different. Return to tradition and do a countdown video. 7 characters that need to return in some capacity in Halo Infinite. I've done a few top 3s and a few top 5s before, and to be honest, they went down an absolute treat, so I figured today we'd do a top 7, because what number is more trad Halo than 7? So if at any point you enjoy the video, agree with any of my choices, or want to see me do more countdown videos like this one, then don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if, for some peculiar reason, you haven't done so yet, and on the blood of our fathers, on the blood of our sons, you swear to follow the Twitch.
Even to our dying breath.
And let's begin the countdown. Starting off in the number 7 spot, we have a man who needs no introduction. Noble 6. The end of Reach made it very, very clear that he didn't die, and given that Blue Team are going to be going back to Reach just prior to Halo Infinite, I honestly think that 243 will be mind-numbingly stupid. I'm sorry, I can't keep that up. No, I'm sorry, I can't continue to say that with any form of sincerity. So with that joke that's definitely not past its use-by date yet out of the way, let's actually begin the countdown. At number 7, we have Captain Thomas Lasky. For me, Lasky is one of the few new characters from the Reclaimer saga that I can say that I genuinely really do like. His development in Halo 4, going from a sort of relatively meek commander under the orders of the brash Del Rio, to a strong, confident captain, taking over Del Rio's role and personally ensuring that Chief made it inside the Mantle's approach, was such a cool development to watch. I mean, I still get insane chills hearing his final words before he blows a hole in the ship.
Weapons! Prepare firing solution! We promised to get the Chief inside that ship, and I'm not about to let that man down!
Ooh. Chills, my dude. Chills. Following Cortana's death, he sort of became a father figure to Chief in a way. Maybe father figure isn't the right word, but his talk with him on the Infinity afterwards showed that he cares for Chief more so than any other members of the UNSC. I mean, I'm not really that surprised considering he literally owes him his life, but with Chief more than likely having to kill Cortana once and for all in Infinite, having both Halsey, his mother figure, and Lasky, his father figure, present would make for some great development, if you ask me. There's also the fact that, you know, he's the captain of the UNSC's flagship, the Infinity, which is also guaranteed to play a huge role. My only worry is that with it being a soft reboot, the few, in my opinion, good things about 343's era will be left behind with all of the bad things. Given that Infinite is taking heavy inspiration from CE, however, I'd love to see Lasky return in a sort of, not reworked, but restyled manner, sort of in a Keys-esque role, but more intimate than Keys was in Halo CE, given their history. He'd be great to have as like a personal commander or something, the one giving you the orders on the battlefield of Zeta Halo. And then, if he were to fill a Captain Keys-like role, we could see him get some field experience as well. Spartan Ops wasn't great by any means, but one of the few diamonds in the rough for me was seeing Lasky defend his ship against Promethean invaders. Seeing him defending Infinity's crew with a massive shotgun and not being afraid to use it was great, and I'd love to see a bit more of that from him, and if he were to be Keys 2.0, that'd definitely be a possibility. Oh man, I can already see the Lasky proto-Gravemind comments now. But really, the main reason I want to see him back center stage is his relationship with Chief, and to see how that will evolve and change now that Cortana is big bad space Hitler. Halo 5 completely let me down on that front, along with pretty much every front humanly imaginable. Lasky was so ancillary to that game's narrative, it was almost insulting after Halo 4. He was essentially pointless in that game, and I really don't want to see that happen again. Oh, and also, one last thing, Darren O'Hare, who voices and does the mocap for Lasky, played Brad Vickers in the Resident Evil 3 remake, and I really want to see Brad supporting Chief in Halo Infinite. In the number 6 spot, we have Chief's family, Blue Team. I will forever be annoyed that of all the Halo games, Halo 5 happened to be Blue Team's first game. We'd waited so long to see them in a game, and their entry point just so happened to be the worst campaign in the series, and I feel like a lot of people sort of generalized their dislike for Halo 5 over to Blue Team, or at least over to the idea of Blue Team being in the games, and I really, really disagree with that. As somebody who's been reading Halo books since, like, I don't know, probably 2003, Blue Team have a special place in my Halo heart. They're Chief's family, and if Infinite is set somewhere in the 2560s, they will have been serving together for over 40 years. So having them present during the war against the Created, one of the most important wars any of them will ever fight, is only right, if you ask me. Each member of Blue Team brings something different to the table, both narratively and in combat, and the way they function as a unit with Chief would make for some just incredible spine-tingling moments. Something Halo 5 completely lacked. To put it lightly, the way that Halo 5 treated Blue Team was an awful representation of their characters and their place in the universe, and I really hope Halo Infinite can right that wrong. However, I know what you're all thinking, and I wholeheartedly agree. Halo 5 squad mechanics were awful, and they need to stay as far away from Halo Infinite as possible. Agreed. If anything, I feel like the squad mechanics and the constant presence of Blue Team alongside Chief actually weakened their presence in Halo 5. The way I'd handle them in Infinite is quite the opposite, in fact. I'd savour their presence. Have Chief be alone, or with like a few Marines or ODSTs for most of the campaign's missions, just like Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo 4, and only have him fight alongside Blue Team for a few missions, but make those missions the most important do-or-die missions in the entire game. Emphasize that mission success is so crucial and the odds are so overwhelming that not even Chief could possibly get through it all alone. Make Blue Team essential backup, if you get me. That way, you emphasize their presence and the importance of the mission a billionfold. It gives more weight and value to them being there, and in doing so, it gives more weight and value to their characters. Oh, and also, if they are in the game, please actually focus on each character's traits this time. Fred is the knife and CQC specialist of Blue Team, Kelly is the fastest Spartan to ever exist, and Linda is the best marksman in the entire UNSC, and not a single one of those traits received any emphasis or, God forbid, development in Halo 5. Honestly, I must look at this concept art of Fred from Halo 5, like, maybe once or twice a week, and just cry to myself, like, we could have had this could have been his character design. Talk about wasted potential. By fleshing out Fred, Kelly, and Linda's individuality, not only are you fleshing out the team as a whole by showing how 4 very different, very unique Spartans work together, like the most well-oiled machine in existence, but you're also giving each character their own unique identity that fans can attach themselves to. I mean, that's exactly what Bungie did with Noble Team, and love them or hate them, it gave them a massive cult following that still love them 10 years later. I mean, the mere fact that people are still obsessed with Emil's helmet and still believe that Noble 6 might have survived is proof of that, and Blue Team should receive the same treatment. Make them as badass and as lethal and as unique as they are in the books, and you'll be hard-pressed to find a single person who doesn't end up loving Blue Team. Coming in at the number 5 spot, we have one of, if not my favourite faction in the entirety of Halo, the Silent Shadow. Now, when all those Mega Bloks toy leaks started coming out and it was starting to look increasingly more likely that the Banished were going to be in Halo Infinite, it wasn't Atriox or Let Valir or Colony who first came to mind as characters that I was excited to see in a game. It was the mere possibility that maybe, finally, we might see the Silent Shadow. For those who might not know who the Silent Shadow are, they are basically the elite of the elite. a division of Spec Ops elites who specialize in assassination and extraction, and are pretty damn good at their job, to put it lightly. Typically given orders to assassinate human HVTs, like Spartans for example, they were sometimes even ordered to silence heretics and those who betrayed the Covenant as well. Following the Human Covenant War, they dedicated themselves to hunting down and exterminating the brutes. However, later they encountered Atriox and the Banished, who managed to convince them to join their faction, and they've been with them ever since. So, Infinite is the best possible opportunity to put these badass elites in a game. They'd make for a perfect boss-style encounter, or hell, maybe even as a super rare enemy encounter that only happens on Legendary or when you've got Mythic turned on or something. Sort of like the Devoted Centuries, in a way, that group of zealots that hunt Noble Team throughout Reach's story. Having the Silent Shadow fill a role like that would be nothing short of perfect. And honestly, I don't think I need to say any more. Everything about them is badass, unique, and exhumes that almost edgy cool factor that people of all varying levels of interest in Halo would love and become attached to. They're also dying to be fleshed out more, and what better way is there to do that than have them play a prominent role in Halo Infinite? Honestly, I could go on forever about these guys. They are one of my favourite aspects of Halo's entire lore, and the fact that they haven't been in a game yet, or even mentioned in a game, is nothing short of heresy, quite honestly, but I think I've said all that I need to say. 343, if the Banished are in Halo Infinite, the Silent Shadow damn well better be as well. That said, however, if the Silent Shadow are in Halo Infinite, then they're going to be hunting you down like a shark in bloody water. You're going to need something to help you stay off the grid, to make you absolutely undetectable. And boy, do I have a proposition for you. NordVPN are proudly sponsoring today's video to help you do just that. Take control of your internet experience today with NordVPN. With thousands of super fast servers in 60 plus countries across the globe, no data logging, Android and iOS apps for mobile browsing, and military-grade encryption, Nord is the premier VPN service, keeping you and your data safe and undetectable no matter where you are, and ensuring your browsing experience remains as fast and smooth as a Spartan's reaction time. And right now, if you go to nordvpn.com/HiddenXperia, or use code HiddenXperia, you can get 70% off a 3-year plan plus 1 additional month for free, bringing the total subscription down to only $3.49 per month. And cybersecurity isn't the only benefit of using Nord. You unlock a truly global internet, meaning that region-locked content on, Netflix for example, suddenly becomes available at the click of a button no matter where you are in the world. So again, go to nordvpn.com/HiddenXperia or use code HiddenXperia to get 70% off a 3-year plan plus 1 additional month for free, and level up your cybersecurity today. Thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video and for helping us remain off the Silent Shadow's motion trackers. And now, it's time to get back to the countdown. Okay, so, to be honest with you guys, ranking the final 4 characters was literally impossible. I want all 4 of these characters in Infinite equally as much as each other, so consider them all tied first place. The first of these, technically in the number 4 spot, is Artas Vadum, one of my favourite Halo characters of all time, and a character that has been sorely missing from not only the games, but the Halo universe as a whole since 343 took over. Since 2007, this man has only been in one story. I mean, granted, it was a really damn good one, but still, one story, that is bloody sacrilege. His last known whereabouts were actually quite mysterious as well. In March 2558, 7 months prior to Halo 5, he shot down 3 Oni Prowlers that were trailing his ship, the Shadow of Intent. Now, we don't know why they were trailing him, and we don't know what happened to him after that, but it's quite the cliffhanger to leave his story on. Whether it was something to do with Oni's continued Black Ops campaigns to destabilize the elites or whatever is unknown, but regardless, get this man back in Infinite. He was a fantastic leader for the elites, able to rally and inspire them when they were being beaten and trodden on by the Covenant leadership, and then, following the Great Schism, devoted his life to hunting down and killing all the prophets who survived the fall of the Covenant. His history is also one that's heavily intertwined with the Flood. As a commander of the Covenant Spec Ops division, he acted as a leader of some of the finest blade masters in the history of their species, all of whom looked up to Artas as a great leader, and later, when he became a shipmaster, he dominated brute fleets above the Arc.
Brute ships, staggered line. Shipmaster, they outnumber us 3-1.
Then it is an even fight.
Following the war, he took up a senior role in the Swords of Zenghilios, so regardless of Oni's Black Ops projects, he's still a vital ally to humanity, something they need now more than ever with the Created on the rise. Now, I assume that in Halo Infinite we're going to be fighting alongside the Elites again, if Halo 5's ending was anything to go by, and what better commander would there be for them than Artas? And when you consider that we're on Zeta Halo, the most Flood-connected location in the entire galaxy, it all starts to make too much sense. He should have been in Halo 5, but 343, there is no better time than now to bring Artas back into the forefront of Halo's main story, as he was in the original trilogy. His character is an absolute badass, gives incredible speeches, and has one of the most interesting yet painfully brief backstories in the entire franchise. You could even say that right now the allies are outnumbered 3-1, and what better shipmaster is there for such a scenario? Bring him back. Coming in at number 3, we have a character that actually might confuse you at first. The Primordial. Now, yes, I know the Primordial is dead. He was put in a reverse stasis chamber which accelerated the passage of time, essentially forcing it to undergo 1 billion years of decay in only a few seconds, completely and ultimately killing it. That said, however, all that did was destroy its physical body. Its consciousness was transferred into the Flood hive mind and continues to exist, woven into the very fabric of existence as dictated by the Precursor's extremely complicated philosophical neural physics. Every Gravemind that has existed since its death has had the consciousness of the Primordial in it, along with all of its knowledge and memories. I mean, that's how the Gravemind in Halo 2 and Halo 3 knew about the Forerunner Flood War. Its consciousness is essentially the Primordial's. So, where does this leave us in terms of the Primordial's inclusion in Halo Infinite? Well, the way that I see it, given that the game is set on Zeta Halo, something you're about to hear a lot for the rest of this video, where the Primordial was imprisoned by the Forerunners, where it gave Mendicant Bias the Logic Plague, where it corrupted Faber the Master Builder, where it ordered sickening torturous experiments to be conducted on abducted ancient humans, etc, etc, etc. It would honestly be nothing short of heresy to set a game on this ring and not have the Primordial be present in some capacity. And this brings me to my first of 2 ways they could include it in the story. Firstly, the obvious one. If the Flood do return and form a Gravemind, then the consciousness and personality of that Gravemind is the Primordial, so in a way, that's his inclusion in the game, even though it's kind of indirect. They could always change the personality of the Gravemind a little bit to make it more in line with the Primordials and have it speak about ancient events more so it's clear that it's actually the Primordial speaking as opposed to just being present somewhat in the Gravemind's consciousness, if that makes any sense. I don't know, I feel like there's a much better way to do it, however. Personally, I'm really not a fan of the idea that the Primordial should be the primary antagonist or any antagonist or prominent character in the game for that matter, which might sound backwards, but I honestly feel like that would, in a way, be quite a big disservice to the tone and nature of the character. The Primordial works best in the shadows, remaining ambiguous and secretly pulling the strings, and my second way to include it encompasses just that. Having super cryptic Halo 3 style terminals scattered around Zeta Halo, containing ancient messages from the Primordial talking about what happened on the ring, its intentions, and its plans to return in the distant future in the form of the Precursor's final test for humanity, would be the perfect way to include it. Ultimately, this game is going to be set in the one location with the most ties to the Primordial in the entire universe. It would be borderline illegal for 343 to make a game set on Zeta Halo and not have the Primordial's influence in it somewhere, whether it's small and subtle or more overarching and grand scale. And doing it with Halo 3 style cryptic terminals is the best way to do that, if you ask me. And speaking of the Primordial, coming in at the number 2 spot, we have the jelly to the Primordial's peanut butter, Mendicant Bias. Mendicant Bias is one of the most iconic characters in the entire franchise, and is probably the only widely known and mainstream character from Halo's expanded universe, and there are a billion good reasons why he's managed to achieve such a legendary status, especially as a character who's yet to be featured prominently in any of the games. Ever since his introduction in Halo 3, or Halo 2 if you want to get technical, people of all varying levels of Halo interest have loved his depth and mysteriousness, and people have been predicting him playing a major role in game since like pre-Halo 4. I remember before Halo 4 came out, people were predicting that the Didact and Mendicant Bias were going to be the main characters in that game, and yet sadly it's still yet to happen. But if there was ever going to be a game where that could change, it's Halo Infinite. Now, it's worth noting that unlike the Primordial, despite Mendicant's significant history with Zeta Halo, his last known location was on the other side of the galaxy. As far as we know, what remained of his core, like his central housing, following the Forerunner Flood War, was buried in one of the Ark's vast deserts, and the last we heard from him was at the end of Halo 3, where he very cryptically spoke to Master Chief in a terminal, informing him that he sought atonement for his sins by aiding the Spartan, those sins of course being joining forces with the Flood, and that he was nearing the end of his life, presumably because Installation 08 was about to be destroyed, and with it, the Ark, or at least that's what he thought. Now of course, as we know, the Ark wasn't destroyed, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Mendicant survived the events of Halo 3. At least, I sure as hell hope that he survived. So, where does this leave us in terms of his involvement in Infinite? Well, if he's still alive, he's presumably still seeking atonement, and Zeta Halo is where the Primordial infected him with the Logic Plague and brought him over to the side of the Flood, so it's the very source of everything he's seeking atonement for. Just like the Primordial, the best way to include Mendicant would be in super cryptic, mysterious Halo 3 style terminals. Again, don't make him the main focus of the game, but like Halo 3 did, have him secretly pulling the strings in the background in support of humanity, as opposed to the Primordial who's doing it to oppose them. A lot has happened since the end of Halo 3 and since Chief last spoke to Mendicant Bias. I mean, Chief has since encountered and defeated the Didact, of whom had a massive connection to Mendicant for obvious reasons, and I reckon Mendicant would have something to say about that. I mean, years ago there was even this theory circulating that Mendicant Bias was the one that closed the portal early at the end of Halo 3, cutting the Dawn in half and ensuring that Chief's half was sent to Requiem to wake the Didact instead of being sent back to Earth like the Arbiter's half was, to prepare for the eventual return of the Flood. Now, whether or not that's true or not, and to be honest, it more than likely isn't, but whether or not it is or not, and whether Mendicant is still seeking atonement or died somehow when Installation 08 fired and was destroyed, is actually kind of redundant, to be quite honest, because even putting those aside, there are still ways to include him in Halo Infinite. His primary extension, which is basically like a housing that his physical body/core was plugged into, is on Zeta Halo, as is his data network and the facility where he was given the Logic Plague, and the Palace of Pain, where he oversaw the sickening experiments conducted on the Ring's humans. Again, there's so much material here for Halo 3 style terminals to focus around Mendicant, the Primordial, their history on the Ring, and the history of the Ring in general. I really hope that 343 capitalize on it, because Mendicant is one of the most interesting, beloved, and sadly criminally underused characters in Halo's universe, and Halo Infinite is the perfect game to change that. And coming in at the number 1 spot is a character who needs no introduction, the Arbiter. This one is an absolute no-brainer, to be honest. I mean, regardless of what any hardcore lore fan might say, the fact that Halo 5 didn't show Arby and Chief's reunion and instead saved it for a book is an absolute travesty, and Halo Infinite needs to rectify it. Honestly, I don't think I need to elaborate on why the Arbiter should be in Halo Infinite. I don't really think that's something that I need to do. I mean, he and Chief put an end to the Covenant together. They defeated the Flood together and saved the galaxy together. He's the leader of the Swords of Zenghilios, humanity's #1 ally and best friend when it comes to stopping the Created. And above all of that, he and Chief are the 2 fan-favourite characters in the entire franchise. 343 are looking to recapture many of the emotions and magic of the original trilogy with Halo Infinite. And what better way is there to do that than have Chief fight alongside the leader of the Elites once more? Once mortal enemies, once again joining forces to fight a common evil, cementing the 2 species alliance, and more so, Chief and Arbiter's alliance. It's such a good duo because on the one hand, you have a warrior responsible for the death of millions of the other species, and then on the other hand, you have a warrior responsible for the death of billions of the other species. And yet still, like the incredible warriors they are, they're able to fight alongside each other, back to back, against a common foe. Seeing the Arbiter return in Halo 5 was probably the only shining light of that entire game for me, and I really don't want it to stop there. I want the Swords of Zenghilios to feature prominently in the Halo games moving forward, and again, if 343 want to recapture the spirit of the original trilogy, having humans fight alongside elites once again, and by extension, having Chief and Arbiter fight alongside each other once again, is one of the best ways to do that. The 2 fighting alongside each other just encapsulates that camaraderie in the face of total destruction that was such a key aspect of the original Halo trilogy, and that's been sorely missing from 343's games. Like I said, bringing the Arbiter back and having him be center stage again is a real no-brainer. I mean, I was adamant it was going to happen in Halo 5, I was adamant we were going to get Chief and Arbiter fighting alongside each other once again. Sadly, we didn't end up getting that, but with the entire galaxy now under the Creator's reign, I would be shocked if the Swords of Zenghilios just sat back idly and let humanity do all the work. The Arbiter is one of the greatest heroes in the entire Halo universe, and he deserves to return to his former status as a main character alongside Chief. Please, 343, give us a proper Chief and Arbiter reunion on Zeta Halo. I beg of you. And so, that's it. 7 characters that I think need to return in some capacity in Halo Infinite. Ideally, I'd love all of these characters to feature prominently, but one of the lessons that 343 needed to learn from Halo 5 is to just kind of chill a little bit with the amount of main characters in their games. I mean, Halo 5 had like 15 main and side characters, which is a ridiculous number. It doesn't give any one character enough time to shine and be developed. With Halo 5, they went for breadth over depth, and with Halo Infinite, I really hope they do the polar opposite of that. That said, however, it doesn't mean that a number of these characters can't feature in the game. Please, 343, I just want to see Chief, Blue Team, and Arbiter being commanded by Artas and Lasky fighting the Silent Shadow, while Mendicant Bias and the Primordial pull the strings in the shadows. Is that really too much to ask? But yeah, that does it for today. You know, most top 10s or top whatevers on YouTube tend to just be like 10 minutes and 1 second long, ultra clickbait for maximum ad revenue and minimum effort. Here, on my channel, we do things a little bit different, so if you want to see more countdowns like this one in the near future, then don't forget to show your support down below with the likes and the comments, and of course, by hitting that big ol' subscribe button. I want to give a massive thank you to PGN Deku for becoming a new iconic one over on the old Patreon. Very iconic indeed. Along with, of course, everybody else who continues to support me over there. And thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you all in the next one.